الله أكبر الله أكبر. Brothers and sisters, last week I talked about equality in Islam. A foundation and base that was not only laid by our Prophet ﷺ in Islam, not only did he encourage us and educate us about equality, but every act of worship reflects the message of equality. Again and again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us about our common ancestry and the elements of the human construct that we share with each and every single human being to walk on the face of the earth. Ya ayyuhan nas in kuntum fi raybin min al-ba'th. O people, if you have any doubt of resurrection, well, guess what? فَإِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ. Verily, we created you from dust. ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ. And then from an impure discharge. ثُمَّ مِنْ عَلَقَةٍ. Then from a clot of blood. And so on and so forth. هو الذي خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم من علقة ثم يخرجكم طفلا ثم لتبلغوا أشدكم ثم لتكونوا شيوخا ومنكم من يتوفى من قبل ولتبلغوا أجلا مسمى ولعلكم تعقلون. Allah reminds the human being that He is the one that created you, your origins from dust, from clay, and then gradually into a clot of blood, to an impure discharge, and then He makes you come out as a child so that you can reach the stage of strength in your life and you can reach your elder age. وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يَتَوَفَّى مِنْ قَبْلِ. Not everyone goes through this stage in order. Some people die earlier. But wherever they die, they have reached their designated time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us again and again from the get-go. The first revelation that was gifted to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ. From the get-go, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leveled the field and put each and every single human being in their place. This is a message that is repeated again and again in the Quran as a reminder. And this is the nature and essence of the Quran. Quran is a reminder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kitabun unzila ilayk. This book has been revealed to you. فَلَا يَكُنْ فِي صَدْرِكَ حَرَجٌ مِّنْهُ لِتُنذِرَ بِهِ. So that there is no narrowness felt in your chest when you warn by this, وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and is a reminder for those who believe. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا. Who can be more of an oppressor than that person who is reminded by the signs of Allah and then turns his face away? إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. In this Quran, in this message, there is a reminder for those who have a heart and for those who listen while their mind is present. So the Quran is a reminder. But what is a reminder? What is a dhikra? A dhikr, a tadhkira. What is a reminder? A reminder is something that causes you to remember, or it makes you aware of something that is forgotten. This is a reminder. You don't remind somebody about something that they are not already aware of. For example, Brother Farhan, by the way, it's your khutbah last week. Next week, I just wanted to remind you. Or Brother Karim, I just wanted to remind you to fulfill your $100,000 pledge by the end of the month. And you're thinking, huh? What pledge? What khutbah? A reminder is to make someone remember something that is forgotten for some reason. It is not to serve for something that is not known. And brothers and sisters, as human beings that we are, in pursuit of prosperity, in conquest for quest, in our struggle for a better life, we tend to forget where we came from. We tend to forget how we came in this world and how we will leave this world. We came in this world naked, and we leave with 3 or 4 pieces of cloth for sisters. We came into this world crying, but we leave from this world silent. We came in this world hungry, and we leave this world with only the food that is left behind in our digestive system, even if that. We come in this world kicking, but we leave this world being carried away in a box. So, the beginning and the ending of every single human being's life is the same. It's what's in between that makes the human being literally carried away and forgetful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharraka bi rabbika al-kareem. O insan, what has made you careless in regards to your Lord, your Master, Al-Kareem, the most generous? What took you off the path? What made you slip off? Alladhi khalaqaka, the one who created you, fasawwaka fa'adalak, who fashioned you perfectly and made you in due proportion. Allah reminds us again and again, again and again. And the fact that Allah reminds us about this again and again implies that we need to be reminded of this. And we need to remember this again and again. Because we are all human beings. We need to be reminded that we are all made of the same flesh and blood. When any one of us is cut, we all bleed. I don't care how high your sugar is, your blood is not sweeter than the other person's. When we are sad, we cry. We have tears that roll down our cheeks, not pearls and diamonds. When we pass and expel, no one over here can say that mine smells like a bed of roses. No. We are all equal in creation. No one is superior to anyone. No one is virtuous over anyone, and no one has anything on anyone except with the piety, except with a person's piety towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that too is only for Allah to see, decide, and deliberate. Inna Allaha alimun khabir. Allah knows everything. So this message of equality, it's something that is a constant reminder, not just in the Quran, but by the teachings and the actions of our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. During his last farewell sermon that I shared with you last week, he made sure that everyone there understood what that message was. And he made sure that everyone understood the magnitude of taking this message to every corner of the world. So equality is something that is repeated again and again in the Quran, because the human being needs to be reminded of this again and again. Let's take the example for taqwa. The word ittaqu in its plural command form is in the Quran 78 times. Ittaqu. And I'm not even talking about the general forms of لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ, the passive forms, the general forms. Just the command plural form of ittaqu has been mentioned 78 times in the Quran. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that the reminder for taqwa is needed again and again, again and again. Because we are insan. That is what insan stands for. Someone who is forgetful. Someone who forgets has to be what? Reminded, not informed. Someone who forgets has to be reminded. And the same insan may forget that he or she is equal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, irrespective of the color of their skin, irrespective of their background, nationality, and language. Inequality on these bases, or on any basis, is something that is man-made. And when inequality is there, it leads to disrespect, dishonoring, humiliation, and even leads to physically harming one another and killing one another. And when these things are rampant in our ummah, Shaitan, whenever he sees these things, these cracks in the mirror, these cracks, they fuel him. And he thrives on these cracks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ, to grab on strong to the rope of Allah, to be united. Allah tells us to unite. And what does Shaitan tell us? Shaitan tells us to take the same word unite and scramble it and untie yourselves from the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's absorb one hadith for right now. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he explains that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا يحل للمؤمن أن يهجر أخاه فوق ثلاثة أيام. It is not halal, it is not permissible for a mu'min, for a true believer, to abandon and avoid and not talk to his brother for more than 3 days. You have 3 days. You have 3 days to sort your issues out, get over it, and move on. Because there is a religion to display. There is a message to carry on. There is a legacy to share. We have to remind ourselves. And there are people of our own that need to be reminded to show the true picture of Islam. Our life is not like the Lego movie, where you wake up, get ready for work, buy overpriced coffee, go work, come back, unwind, chill out, and then go to sleep and get ready for work again, and continue the same routine day in and day out. This is not our purpose in life. This ummah, kuntum khayra ummah. We are the best ummah. Why? Ukhrijat. We have been dispatched, linnas, as stewards for humanity. We have been dispatched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as stewards for humanity. And with great merit comes great responsibility. So we have to straighten up as an ummah. And it starts on an individual level. It's easy for me to stand here and talk to all of you. It's easy for you to talk to the person next to you, or you to tell the brother next to you to straighten up. But we have to be the change that we want in our children. We have to be the change we want in our household. We have to be the change that we want in our masjid and in our community and in our country. Because if we don't straighten our act up, if we get caught up with one another, at each other's throats, if we don't set an example for our children, for our household, for our community of working together, of painting a picture of Islam with the beautiful colors, showing people the true meaning of Islam, then guess what? There is the media, there are hundreds of organizations, and thousands of people working very hard to tarnish our image, to sling mud at our religion and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to brainwash our children. One example, and I forgot the book in the office before I came. There is a book that has been going out in the mail. And the title of that book is 10 Amazing Muslims Touched by God. There's a picture of a guy with glasses with a really nice smile, with some hair missing on the top of his head. This book is being sent to selective Muslim households with no return address label on the envelope. And this book is about the name is 10 Amazing Muslims Touched by God. This book is about 10 Muslims who left the fold of Islam. And yet, look at the name of the book. I came across this book a couple of months ago in Texas. I didn't say anything about it until it started popping up here. Until my dad gave me a copy. Look at this. And other people are starting to ask me, what is this book about? The website is amazingmuslims.com. Can you believe that? So there are people out there who are trying to plant the seeds of doubt in possibly already confused soil. This is why we have to work very hard to safeguard our children and family. Fiery human being with horns, a tail, and a trident in his hand. That's not how Shaitan appears. Shaitan appears in the form of a best friend. He appears in the form of a co-worker, a colleague. He appears in the form of a pop-up ad while your children or you are surfing the internet. So we have to humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Shaitan, what's Shaitan's slogan? Ana khayrun min. Ana khayrun min. Shaitan keeps on putting, or rather, anta khayrun min. Anta khayrun min. You're better than him. You're better than him. You're better than him. You're better than the other guy. We have to humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He is the Khaliq and everyone besides Him is the makhluk. Allah is the rich one. Allah is the independent one. Wallahu al-ghani wa antum al-fuqara. Allah is the one who is rich and independent. Wa antum al-fuqara. Allah addresses all of mankind, that all of you are poor and in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of the division that we see in this ummah, it stems from the fact of inequality, of this mentality that I am better than that person, whether it's because of religious reasons, spiritual reasons, or national or background reasons. A lot of the things that we see in the ummah somehow, some way stem from this mentality and attitude. And you know what this does to a person's book of deeds? Remember the whole theme about our life revolving around our book of deeds, pivoting around our book of deeds? By disrespecting, humiliating, dishonoring others, by harming others, we take out pages and chapters of good deeds and possibly even dissolve all the good deeds from our hearts by doing this. I conclude with one hadith. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says that once the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting with his Sahaba, and he asked his Sahaba, "Atadruna man al-muflis?" Do you know who is a muflis? A muflis in Arabic means a person who is bankrupt, a person who has nothing, with his pocket sticking out of his clothes, nothing at all. Now usually the Sahaba, they answer, Wallahu wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Prophet know. Out of respect, they would hesitate to answer. But the Sahaba, they gave the answer and said, Al-muflisu fina man la darhama lahu wa la mata'. A bankrupt person is he who doesn't have any money or any belongings, nothing at all. They thought they nailed the answer to the question. Yes, that is who a bankrupt person is. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ الْمُفْلِسَ مِنْ أُمَّتِي, that a bankrupt person is that person from my ummah who comes on the day of judgment بِصَلَاةٍ وَصِيَامٍ وَزَكَاةٍ, oh, with so many prayers and gave so much money out in charity, fasted so many days throughout the year, even besides Ramadan. But وَيَأْتِي قَدْ شَتَمَ هَذَا وَقَذَفَ هَذَا وَأَكَلَ مَالَ هَذَا وَسَفَكَ دَمَ هَذَا. He cursed at somebody. He wrongly abused and accused. He wrongly accused somebody. He took advantage of somebody's wealth. He killed and harmed somebody. He hit somebody. وَضَرَبَ هَذَا فَيُعْطَى هَذَا مِنْ حَسَنَاتٍ. All of those deeds in his book of deeds, the good deeds, they will be taken out one by one. Pages torn out from that book and will be given to that person. And what will happen when all the bad deeds, when all the good deeds are gone? Then, a person, فَإِنْ فَنِيَتْ حَسَنَاتُ قَبْلَ أَنْ يُقْضَى مَا عَلَيْهِ أُخِذَ مِنْ خَطَايَاهُ فَطُرِحَتْ عَلَيْهِ ثُمَّ طُرِحَ فِي النَّارِ. The person who was wrongly accused, who was abused, hit, killed even, all of his ill deeds and shortcomings will be placed on that person's book. They will be transferred, all of those chapters will be transferred into his book. It will be thrown in his face and he will be thrown into the fire. So this is something very important. All our efforts will mean nothing. All our education will mean nothing. All our businesses will mean nothing if we haven't utilized them to benefit us in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلَّ إِنسَانٍ أَلْزَمْنَاهُ طَائِرَهُ فِي عُنُقِهِ وَنُخْرِجُ لَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كِتَابًا يَلْقَاهُ مَنْشُورًا. Allah will bring forth on the day of judgment the book out in the open. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, اقرأ كتاب. Read your book. كَفَى بِنَفْسِكَ الْيَوْمَ عَلَيْكَ حَسِيبًا. You are the best accountant for your deeds today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be amongst those who are happy when we read our book. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.